if you want to support the show, any of the shows, either this or whichever show, I'm not on right now because this is just a blanket ad for all of them, and the website, you can go to bewareofspoilers.com. In the description for any of the episodes of Beware of Spoilers, there is the option to donate. If you don't want to donate that way, you can donate directly through the website. We do have that, mwpnews.com. And if you don't want to support that way, then going to mwpnews.com will help out because we have ads there. We don't want to keep it, where there's a lot of ads. There's a few ads. But the point is we want to make it so that way, we can sustain this for the long term. If people donate, we're never going to paywall anything, I don't think, as of right now. But if people start donating, we'll start doing cooler and cooler stuff. Like donations are how we get to cover stuff like Tribeca and other, film festivals. And, we may be able to bring on more people to help out. So if you want to help out the show and you want more content from us, by all means, even just going and giving us a 5-star rating on Spotify helps out a lot. But that's it. That's the only ad we'll have on the podcast ever. But here's whatever podcast you're going to be listening to. Good evening. It's 5 o'clock, and welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam. We're here to talk about Inside Out 2, a continuation of Disney's. Before we get into this, I want to address what happened during the previews. That I was like, that's an odd decision. So, I get Disney not wanting to put a trailer for Deadpool 3 or Deadpool and Wolverine before this movie. I understand that decision-making process because it's why, it's a rated R movie. Why would you want to advertise that before a PG movie, which is going to be more family-friendly? And then it's why would you do that? And so I get not putting that trailer there. The baffling part is there is a trailer that's a PG trailer for Borderlands, and I'm fairly certain Borderlands is hard R. It was just something that I was like, that's weird. Why would you do that? Either way, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Inside Out 2, the new Pixar movie. And look, I went into this with reasonably low expectations because this announcement came as part of Disney's we are not committing as much to originals. We're doing more established IP. And while it may seem weird to consider Inside Out an established IP, it was one of the tentpoles to Disney Infinity, and it was a huge merchandise seller for them when it came out 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago. I think it was 2015, because I think the first time we talked about it on one of the podcasts was we talked about Inside Out back in 2016. We called it Pixar's Return to Form, because at the time it's Pixar had Cars 2, they had Brave, which I didn't particularly care for. They had what was the other big one that was not quite great? That period after Toy Story, The Good Dinosaur. Which may have even been the same year as Inside Out, or no, I think it was after. It was before. But that whole period wasn't great for Pixar. And I would argue that Pixar had a little bit of a downhill skid in the late 2000s leading into that. But this is kind of them being this is us doing what we... Because even Brave wasn't great. Not Brave. When you think of Up, the thing you think about with Up is that opening 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes in that movie where he meets the woman who becomes his wife, and then just that bit where he, where all that happens, and then he makes the balloon and flies away with the kid. And it's okay, what else happens in that movie? I've seen that movie several times, could not tell you. That movie is not a great movie. It's got a fantastic opening, but I couldn't tell you the rest. WALL-E is good, but I would say from WALL-E on, they have a lot more misses than hits. But Inside Out was kind of the shining example on the hill, where it's like, this is us doing something great. We have something we want to say. We're going to do it. And I think that, to that end, like, yeah, this is them going back to that established IP, and this is the first one where they're, we're not going to do something new. We're going to do something, already. And there are two ways that this works as a studio. One is we have a creative behind it who has something they want to say. This is not just us, trying to cash in on it, although it is, it is cashing in on it, obviously. It's that, or it's been such a long time that the audience has aged and there's nostalgia for it. And to that end, it's like, this one kind of fits in a little bit of both of those, because you could tell that the team behind it very clearly had something they want to say about, like, the sense of self, which is what this movie is ostensibly about. How does the sense of self survive as new emotions and more complex emotions join? I don't think the movie's perfect. I think that, like, anxiety is very clearly fleshed out. And it's very clear that they wanted to say something about anxiety. That was the thing that, like, when they set out to do this, anxiety was the thing. And then you see, like, there was that report that they cut shame and guilt from this because they felt it would be too heavy if you added shame and guilt. And it is kind of a heavy movie, like. And I think that, like, that's part of what makes it work, is that it's like you are dealing with very heady, no pun intended, concepts in, who you are as a person and how your emotions dictate that, and how that whole thing works. And I think that more often than not it works. But the moments, and the thing is too, like, I think the trailer, missells the movie, because I think the movie is way better than the trailer indicates it would be. It's kind of the same issue that I had last year with Elemental. When I saw Elemental, and I was like, oh, this movie very clearly is something different from what this trailer made it seem. Like, yes, at its core, this is there is a romance here between Wade and Ember, but I don't think that that's entirely what the movie's about. The movie is about, it's fundamentally an immigrant story, and dealing with the legacy of family, and what that means as a person, to be not just your own person, but also the daughter or son of these other people. Especially when you're already set as the other. Like, that movie has a lot to say, but the trailer doesn't really indicate that. It feels kind of cut and dry. This is fundamentally just a romance. Here, the trailers made it seem like it was going to be kind of dismissive almost, and I think that the movie ends up doing a lot more with, like, playing with anxiety as a concept that kind of, like, and not making it seem like it's something that, nobody has, and Riley's weird for having it. And I think that's something, like, especially the very end, I think really encapsulates that, where it's like, look, anxiety is something that you will have to deal with, and everyone will have to deal with. The issue is you can't let anxiety dictate everything. You can't let your fear be the thing in command all the time. And that's what this, not fear, because fear is its own emotion in this, but anxiety. And there's a thing where it's like, fear is fundamentally attracted to anxiety, which I thought was really funny, is this recurring bit through, like, the first, like, I would say 2/3 of the movie, where he keeps like at one point he's like, I can fix her. And I was like, that's it's pretty funny that fear would have that towards anxiety. What else do we have that I wanted to address? Like, I think the effects are great. Like, I don't think it does anything as unique as, like, in the first one, like, when they get to the abstract. Like, that was a really cool thing. The only thing kind of like that here is when they go to the, when they're in the vault, and you have Riley, and this is something that bothered me, and this feels more like a studio mandate than a thing. It is the secret that even the emotions don't know about. that's in the vault of all of Riley's secrets. And it's like, one of them is that, like, she still really likes this preschool kids show that very clearly gets Blue's Clues and Dora the Explorer melded together. Like, she really likes it, and she still does, even though she liked it as a kid. Then there's the video game character who's very clearly, like, public domain version of Cloud from Final Fantasy that she has a crush on. And then there is, this deep, dark secret that's this giant that kind of Deus Ex Machina them out of it, but they don't come back to it. And the thing is, too, there's a moment where it's like they get out and the not quite, Blue from Blue's Clues gets out, too, with his pouch, which comes back later in the movie. They get out, and then Cloud gets out too, but they never come back to the secret. And they ask the secret, like, hey, are you going to come out too? And I forget who it was that says, it's not time yet. And then it goes back into the vault, and it's like, okay, so this is clearly just something for a sequel. Like, that's clearly what this is. You just setting it up, like, what happens when this secret gets out? And also, what is the secret, and why is it so earth-shattering, and how do the emotions not know what it is? And I guess it's just one of those things where it's like, these are things that Riley hides even from herself, which could be interesting considering what this is, which is this exploration of, like, how your memories and how your thoughts make up your sense of identity and what your sense of identity is. Because that's fundamentally what anxiety is trying to do. Anxiety wants to change Riley, to put Riley into a situation where she can be well off for not just high school, which she's going to be going into, but also college and careers going forward. And what this is focused on is that at this hockey camp, Riley and her two friends, and this is the most important thing that she can possibly do. Because if she messes this up, then she's going to have no friends and nothing going forward, especially considering that both of her friends are going to a different school. So this is a major moment in Riley's life, which is why this anxiety and these other emotions kind of pop up in this moment. I would have liked for, like, I think that's the one thing, is that it's like anxiety popping up when she does make sense. I think the other emotions kind of only make sense because the puberty alarm goes off, and okay, cool. I think that the whole thing with them trying to get along with anxiety in the beginning is kind of interesting, and then anxiety taking over completely and doing all of that. And that's kind of where we are in this situation, where it's like, again, Riley commits a crime in this movie. Like, that's one of the fundamental things that happens. Like, because at one point, like, it's revealed that, like, the coach keeps all of her thoughts on the players at this camp in this little notebook. And then she keeps track of who's, all that. So it's the night before this big scrimmage, which could make or break Riley's chances of making the high school team as a freshman. And it's this idea that, like, she's so enamored with finding out where she is because anxiety's at the wheel, that she goes and breaks into the coach's office and finds it. If that's something that they're kind of all okay with, and they're like, okay, this is a secret that Riley has that's going to stay, like, that we're not going to keep from the parents, like, what is a secret that Riley is keeping from herself? Like, what's a secret that Riley's keeping from herself that is this golem, literally a giant, like, golem troll thing, like, that even Riley doesn't want to admit to herself, that doesn't even have a face to put to it? Because that's the key thing. And it is my biggest gripe with the movie is you put this thing in to Deus Ex Machina your way out of this movie, but there's no clear, it's so clearly a sequel bait, and getting you out of this one scene that's like, okay, well, we put them in this bottle in this thing, why just do that? You don't have to put them in the bottle, and if you do put them in the bottle, the dog with the pouch could have gotten them out of the bottle too, or the guy with the giant sword could have gotten them out of the bottle. You don't need the secret golem, and then it's not like the secret golem gets them out of the vault. The secret golem is only there to be like, oh, there's more we can explore. Riley is hiding something from herself, and even her emotions don't know it. And what could that be? And I think that's that's interesting storytelling stuff to explore. But that is first act of the next movie, not middle of this movie, setting up to kind of lay out what's going on. And that's fundamentally kind of an issue that I have with this. That said, I think that the entire way they explore it is very interesting. I think that I think that the issue is, again, putting Joy through the same ringer functionally as the first movie is kind of, I don't want to say lazy, but it is kind of, not that interesting. I think they are counting on the fact that you may have seen Inside Out when it came out in 2015 or 2016, and then maybe haven't seen it since, so you have kind of an idea that it's like, the moral of the story is, it's okay to be sad sometimes, and you have to accept that you are going to be sad sometimes, and the other emotions are going to be involved. But for this to be like, okay, but Joy is still making the same mistake again all this time later, it feels a little weird. Like, it's functionally the same mistake she's making. Like, the mistake she's making this time is still like, oh, well, I still know what's best, and we're only going to put the best into that. And I think that that's another little issue, is that fundamentally the sense of self that they've developed for Riley after, out of all of this is, I'm a good person, which is just in the echoes through, and it's like, and then the anxiety one that develops later is, I'm not good enough. The issue with this is, I think that I'm a good person is not something that's mutually exclusive away from the other, things that are happening. Like, I'm a good person, but I also fail tests. I'm a good person, but I get angry. I'm a good person, but I have this. I'm a good person. Like, fundamentally, those things are not diametrically opposed to being a good person. And it feels weird that it's like, she needs to learn that, like, it would have been better, I think, if it was like an overinflated sense of how great she is. I'm the best, or something like that. Would have been a better way for what that sense of self is. Where it's like, and then you get like, I'm a good person and I'm not good enough. Are like, they don't feel as diametrically opposed as I'm the best and I'm not good enough. Because I'm the best and I'm not good enough creates that identity crisis that she's dealing with throughout this movie. And I feel like that would be better handled. Like, that could have been better dealt with in this. What else have we got that I wanted to address with this movie? A lot of the comedic moments do still land. Like when they're talking to at the end, when she goes on the when she gets back and the parents are asking her like, oh, how is the trip, and the mom is like, and she says, it's fine. And then it's like it goes into the mom's head, and the anxiety for the mom jumps out and is like, what do you mean it's fine? You came back, you were gone for 3 days, and you have this red streak in your hair. What, did you join a gang or something? And they lock the anxiety back up. And then it's like, it goes to the dad's head, and it's like, what do you mean she was gone for 3 days and all this is fine? And Anger, who's the head of the dad's brain, is like, yeah, it's cool, back to the game. Like, he just completely checked out, and that's just a great running gag, even from the first movie. I also think like I said, the running gag with this attraction to anxiety that fear has, and I think that, like, going through, like, I would have liked to have seen the idea of, like, the series of the parade of future career paths that they allude to, that's in the movie and kind of helps out. It would have been interesting to see that as a manifestation of something that anxiety is doing. And the movie's only an hour and a half. You do have a good, I would say for an animated movie that's probably more designed for kids, you probably have another good 15 minutes before we start getting into this is a little overlong. And I think that having anxiety, like that be a manifestation of anxiety, and not be something that like Joy's like, oh look, this is just a thing that happens. Like, I feel like that could have been interesting, where it's like you're dealing with Riley, who fundamentally does not know what she wants, and anxiety is there as a manifestation of that. It's an interesting kind of approach, and I think too, the end result of the movie being like, you don't have to be perfect, and anxiety will still be there. You just have to like, that's what the entire end of the movie is, where it's like, you know, she's having the anxiety attack. After all that, when you get into like the falling action, when she's talking about like, okay, we're gonna find out if we made the team or not. Like, if she still has her friend, she's gonna find out if she made the team or not. And you like, they're talking to anxiety. It's like, okay, look, is any of that happening right now? No, it's not. Let's think about what we can control, and let's only deal with that. What can we control? Okay, so you got a Spanish test next week. Okay, great. Go worry about that. Go sit in your chair, worry about that. That's what you're going to deal with. Like, it's an interesting, changeover, where it's like, it's not saying anxiety is something, I mean, it's not saying anxiety is good, but it's not saying anxiety is something that you should be ashamed of, which I think is important when we're talking about what the moral of this movie is. I think they handle that pretty well as well. What else have we got that we wanted to address? I think the bigger role for the other emotions, like, is kind of there, but not really. I don't think the other emotions have a massive role. And I don't think that it is it's something where it's like, oh, well, they have this role, and they're doing something with it that's, unique and interesting, which is kind of a shame, because it's like, oh, well, you're gonna do more with anger and with anger and disgust and fear, and really they're not doing too much more. They don't have too much more to do in this movie beyond what they did in the first one, and I mean, it's a different role from the first one, but in terms of like ostensibly what they're doing, it's not all that much more. I did really like Envy in this movie. Envy's really funny. I think Envy's got a lot of really great moments. I think the same also goes for like the what's it called? Embarrassment. But again, it feels like this is something that they feel like they're missing other emotions. But for what this is, I think they handle it pretty well. I think that's all I got, though. I mean, this movie's a 5. I saw it in 3D. I don't think the 3D really added all that much to it. I don't think that this is a movie that you need to rush out to see in 3D. I would say that like the visuals do lend themselves. I think that the only time the 3D is really kind of really interesting is when they're dealing with the preschool show guy, who's like, again, Blue and Dora blended together. Really more Dora, I think, but it's like, that is, that's the thing. But just, God, that stupid little, it's such a small thing too, and it just sticks in my craw. Like, I don't know why it bothers me so much that, like, the blatant sequel baiting in the middle of the movie is kind of where it's like, can we just, like, unleash whatever this thing is, and just, Inside Out 3 is going to be coming, midway, I would say probably like, 2020. Well, next year is Leo, then the year after I think it's Toy Story 4. So, probably a few years after that, so we're looking at like 2028 maybe, we're going to be seeing Inside Out 3, and it's going to be like, what's this big thing that Riley's afraid, that Riley won't admit to herself, and like, there is an answer, I think, to what that is, but I don't think we're getting that movie. I think in the current climate, what that thing is, and what the most logical thing that has been vaulted away, I don't think we get what that, I think what that thing is, look, the easiest thing, what's something that Riley has that is a secret that she is so afraid? I mean, look, the thing is, she's 13, so who knows? She's 13 in this movie. If she's already vaulted it, then, I don't know, but, either way, we're dealing fast and loose with this, but I think the easiest thing to go with for what that thing is grappling with her sexuality. Now, does Pixar make that movie, and does Disney weather that storm? Probably not. And then it's well, why are we representing her sexuality as this giant golem thing? It's a weird situation, I think. And I think that, because what other thing could she be so afraid to admit to herself? Because fundamentally, that's what this is. It's something that she is keeping away from her emotions, and she's keeping away from, from all of that. The only thing that you get that could be, I think, is some question of her sexuality. Which would be interesting movie material. If this was not a Disney production, as a Disney production, I don't think we get that. What was it, 2 years ago we had Turning Red? It was 2 years ago we had Turning Red, and there's a scene where she's embarrassed because her mom, because her mom brought her, pads and tampons, and it's and that was something where it's why the fuck are you doing that in a kid's movie? And it's come on, that's the least of it. If that's the issue, if we can't handle that, we definitely can't handle a movie where she's going to be wrestling with her sexuality the entire time, and that's the entire thing, and she's got to come to accept it. It's something where it's I don't even know what it could be, because what other thing could you be so afraid to even admit to yourself? Especially considering how open they are with basically everything else about Riley in this movie. It's weird. And it's a weird thing. But yeah, this is a 5. Go see it in the theater. See it on a large screen. Like I said, the only time the 3D really helps is that thing, because he does do that thing that Dora and Steve on Blue's Clues do, where they look directly into the camera and they ask questions. And because they're animated in 2D, because it's meant to be a preschool show, it does stand out and it looks kind of interesting. And then the same thing applies for also the Cloud character, who is very clearly rendered as an old video game. It kind of reminds me of what's his name on season 2 of Smiling Friends, Gwimby, where it's very clearly this is meant to be a different thing, and he even has the effect of the TV on him. It's but besides that, they don't do anything too different from the first movie to make it where it's this is must see in 3D. And the other thing I'm kind of shocked about is why was there no trailer for why didn't they? You would have, and going back to, we'll bookend it with this, because I talked about how they didn't have a Deadpool trailer before it. Why wouldn't you release a trailer for Captain America, a teaser for Captain America, to put before this movie? To be look, this movie's coming out in 8 months, I think, because it's February. And the only thing I think of is they're delaying Blade again, and they're pushing the entire release slate down, so they don't want to put the trailer out for this, and the movie doesn't come out, and the movie moves release dates to May. Because I think that's the most likely scenario, is that they move this to May, they move Thunderbolts to the July slot, and then they move Fantastic Four to November. Because if I remember correctly, those were the original release dates. I mean, I know for certain they wanted Fantastic Four in November when they originally announced it. But I don't remember, specifically what the plan was for Captain America. And Captain America has done well in May. Let's keep that in mind. Captain America has done very well for Marvel in the month of May. But we'll wrap up there for today. Go check out Inside Out 2. It's playing in theaters. It'll be in theaters for a while because Disney has wised up about their their theatrical window. They've shortened that back up so it's not quite as ridiculously long as it was in the past. but I would say this is definitely worth seeing in a theater. It's very well done. I would say don't wait for it to Disney Plus. Go right now. This weekend, because of Father's Day and because I'm going into Tribeca tomorrow, we're going to have only this on this feed. You can go to the backlog files. It'll probably be tomorrow evening or Sunday morning. I will be talking about a few new video games coming out. I'll be play testing or playing demos of Neva. Neva, I think is how you pronounce it, the game from the producers of from the studio that made Gris. We're going to be playing Skate Story. We're going to be playing, what's the other really big one? Goodnight Universe from the developers of Before Your Eyes. And a few others. I think we're going to do Dark Web Streamer too. I think there's a few games we're going to be playing too beyond those. And we'll be talking about our thoughts on them. That'll be either late tomorrow or early Sunday on the backlog files. And then next week we'll be playing catch up a little bit. I know for certain we're going to be talking about... actually, I don't know anything for certain yet. Because it's kind of a light week. But I think if Tuesday's still playing, we'll be talking about that, the new Julia Louis-Dreyfus A24 movie, and then I think there's another movie that I missed. Or no, is next week Kinds of Kindness? No, that's the week after. Either way, we'll figure it out. So until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.